We are living in a time where the number of billionaires is the highest than ever before, and these people's fortunes have reached record levels. In the meantime, the poorest inhabitants of this planet got even poorer. Throughout Brazil, there are 6,329 favelas, areas where the poor people are living, reaching up to 6% of the entire Brazilian population, meaning almost 11.4 million individuals. The streets of favelas pertain to drug dealers and paramilitary groups who have taken over the streets. People do not have access to clean water because pollution here is maintained by the high amount of industrial waste. Also, there is no electricity. For example, the 13 favelas of the Manguinhos area coexist at the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro, where 55,000 people live in degradation and poverty. Brazil is the place where income equality is astonishing, and it's one of the worst gaps between the rich and the poor in the entire world.
Despite all the policies, Brazil is still the 12th most unequal country in the world.
In fact, the richest 10% of Brazilians earn 26 times more money than the lowest 40% of the entire population. Another similar situation can be seen in Lima, Peru. Here, authorities have built the Wall of Shame as a response to the wave of migration in the 1980s. However, for many people, this concrete wall is seen as a barrier that divides the rich neighborhoods from the poor ones. This 10-foot concrete barrier, topped with barbed wire, is meant to divide the poor areas of San Juan de Miraflores and Villa Maria del Triunfo from the districts of La Molina and Santiago de Surco, where the rich are living. This high barrier has not only damaged the perceptions and lives of people living on each side, but it is also seen as proof of the economic disparity currently existing in the Peruvian capital, Lima. And the list of examples of this huge inequality crisis does not end here. India is another country where the gap between the rich and the poor is even nowadays still noticeable.
Inequality in India is absolutely obscene.
According to a 2017 report published by the International Confederation of Agencies Fighting Poverty, called Oxfam, 10% of the richest Indians control 80% of the nation's wealth. Also, the 1% owns 58% of India's wealth. In other words, if you would sum up the wealth of 16 people living in India, you'd get the wealth of 600 million people. The Dharavi slum, located in Mumbai, is the largest throughout Mumbai and the second largest in Asia. There is estimated that approximately 1 million inhabitants coexist there. In fact, this slum was used as a setting for the well-known movie Slumdog Millionaire, and it actually has a literacy rate of 69%. Which makes it the most literate slum in the whole country. Unfortunately, India has had the worst levels of unemployment in 45 years, and numerous highly educated individuals are not able to find work. Los Angeles is another place where the well-off have been able to separate themselves from the impoverished people. Nowadays, taking a walk in LA is like witnessing a very powerful collide between wealth and poverty in public spaces.
Homeless people in the middle of traffic.
The aggressive nature of the homeless population has skyrocketed.
The rich and the poor have to interact more than ever because we are living in this age of growing economic inequality. Homeless people, living their existence in tents, are walked around by the rich, who naturally ride their million-dollar Lamborghinis and Bugattis. This great gap between the rich and the poor can be seen almost everywhere, from libraries and coffee shops to parks and beaches. South Africa is probably the best example that shows how the rich have divided themselves from the poor. It was named one of the most unequal countries in the world in the year 2018 by a report of the World Bank. Even though the apartheid ended in 1994, starting in 2011, at least 2.5 million South Africans have become poorer. If you would get a bird's eye view of Johannesburg, you would be able to see how the Kaya Sand slum faces the wealthy suburbia of Blabazrand. The contrast basically hits you instantly because there is only a single-track road that separates the large houses with swimming pools from the poor, tin-roofed shacks. And there are certainly even more such examples where the inequality crisis is on full display. And what is even more disturbing is that many governments are fueling this gap between the rich and the poor by, on the one hand, massively undertaxing corporations and wealthy people, and on the other, underfunding vital public services such as healthcare and education. Authorities are constantly nurturing this discrepancy. And those who have to suffer the most from the effects of such policies are the poor ones. Buying food and medication is quite the luxury for many people, struggling to make ends meet each month. Meanwhile, expensive cars and clothes are paraded around by rich people. Did you know that the world's richest 1% have more than twice as much wealth as 6.9 people? Or that almost half of humanity is living on less than $5.50 a day? Or are you aware that 10,000 people die on a daily basis due to not having access to affordable healthcare? Yet, a better world, where the income gap is not so powerful, is possible. Instead of constantly feeding the endless pursuit of profit, governments should focus more on bringing forward a human economy that finds value in what really matters to a society. An economy that favors everyone, not only the fortunate few.